Humanity quit the Galactic Confederacy after a brutal betrayal, crippling its infrastructure with cyber strikes while winning frontier worlds through targeted humanitarian aid. In response, the insurgent coalition Glass Knife unleashed the Babel-Rot virus and a wave of terror attacks, only to face an unexpected alliance of human and alien volunteers. At the Convergence Forum, rebel leader Ilyara Kesh admitted the failure of terror tactics. A joint human brass team defused a hidden bomb meant to kill every delegate. Negotiations produced the Mutual Safeguard Compact, a restorative tribunal for war crimes, and an open science mandate that prevents any one species from monopolizing power. The new emblem, a torch beside an unbroken shard of glass, now symbolizes the fragile trust guiding the galaxy toward cooperative coexistence. Stay tuned to see how the story ends, and don't forget to subscribe. The Hall of Starlight, carved into the hollowed core of the neutral megastation Meridian Spire, had been built to humble lesser species. Suspended screens swirled constellations across vaulted crystal arches. Gravity modulated itself in gentle pulses that made banners drift like living nebulae. Yet the splendor only sharpened the tension as the Human Federation delegation strode through the West Transept, boots clicking in perfect cadence. 12 officers, no aides, no ornamental dress, only matte black field uniforms and unreadable faces. Ambassador Evelyn Shore led, slim and self-possessed, dark hair pulled into a knot so tight it seemed to hold her spine rigid. On her left walked Admiral Jonah Trask, shoulders squared under the weight of 4 unburnished service bars. On her right, Dr. Zahid Naeem, whose calm eyes offered nothing of the genius that had once revolutionized quantum cryptography. Behind them marched 9 more. Soldiers, analysts, strategists, every stride synchronized as though Meridian's pulsing gravity obeyed them alone. Every species in the Galactic Confederacy had sent a representative to this emergency summit, the Siraxi matriarchs coiling over silk cushions, brass insectoids clattering translucent claws. Valari serpentine dignitaries shimmering beneath personal halo lamps. They had come prepared to posture, to scold, perhaps even to bargain. None expected the humans to arrive with serenity bordering on contempt. High Chancellor Valir of the Confederacy, skin like molten opal, voice oiled for persuasion, hovered to the rostrum. Honored delegates, he began, let us open these proceedings in the spirit of reconciliation. Recent misunderstandings. Evelyn Shore didn't wait for translation echoes to fade. Call it what it was, she said, her microphone still muted yet carrying across the hush. You withdrew patrol shields from our border colonies. You empowered the Brask militants, let them raid civilian transports, then stalled relief votes until the dead of Salmas outnumbered the living. Misunderstanding is a corpse wearing perfume. Gasps rippled. The Siraxi matriarch closest to the dais clutched her veil. Chancellor Valir's opalescent sheen dulled a shade. Ambassador Shore, humanity requested this audience. Surely you have proposals rather than accusations. Admiral Trask stepped forward, boots ringing like bells of iron. We came to deliver notice, Chancellor. He touched a control stud on his cuff. A hollow matrix flared overhead, 12 crimson sectors of Confederacy space blinking with data glyphs. Effective 1 hour ago, Federation fleets have withdrawn from every joint patrol zone, every trade transit hub, every cooperative research array. Our envoys depart your capitals within the day. The Human Federation is no longer party to Confederacy treaties or defense accords. The chamber erupted, translators warbled, claws clacked, pheromone currents spiked bitter citrus. But the humans stood motionless, statues carved from the same alloy that plated their carriers. President Yoramin of the Lithari, a race revered for cold arithmetic, rose, voice slicing the din. Withdrawal is economic suicide. You lack the raw deuterium veins of the outer spiral, the cryograin yields of the inner rim. Even your famed ingenuity cannot conjure logistic miracles from vacuum. Dr. Naeem smiled as though indulging a child. We conjure nothing, President. We prepare. Evelyn drew breath, and when she spoke the hall seemed smaller. You misread humanity because you mistake hope for weakness. You saw us mourn Salmas, and you assumed grief defangs. Our capacity for fury is equal to our capacity for song. She pivoted, addressing the tears. Understand this. We do not exit to hide. We exit to build. Whatever rises from that building will remember every delegate who laughed when Salmas burned. She gathered her team with a glance. 12 humans turned in unison and walked the length of the hall, silence cracking behind them like thunder withheld. Doors hissed shut. The delegation vanished into Meridian's labyrinth, leaving a vacuum of dread. Orbiting far above, the Dreadnought HFS Dauntless received Shore's coded phrase, Solstice Black, and relayed it across pulse relays spanning 33 light-years. In hidden shipyards on Luna's far side, dry docks unsealed. Factories dormant since the solar wars hissed awake, floodlighting monoliths of unfinished hulls. On Europa, ice caverns reverberated with the first detonation of magnetic forges in 21 years. Humanity's reserves of anger were measured not in speeches but in tonnage. Admiral Trask stood on dauntless flag bridges, soul receded behind layered titanium shutters. Begin Ghostnet spread, he ordered. Operators keyed commands. In the datascape, thousands of dormant microprobes, no larger than grains of rice, blinked alive inside every major Confederacy switch router. Old code, ancient even. Architecture forged in an era when nuclear winters on Earth tested the hardiest encryption. GhostNet pulsed once, took a fingerprint of galactic commerce, and vanished into the noise, invisible save for a purposeful stutter in a single audit packet no Confederacy auditor would read until too late. 3 days after the summit, the first fractures appeared. A Valari bulk freighter en route to the crystal markets of Cygna Rift stalled mid-jump, its navigation Heisenbank refilled with impossible coordinates that pointed nowhere. Rescue tugs found the vessel intact but drifting, crew alive yet terrified by log entries they hadn't authored. On Gath Prime, the brass colonial treasury executed a routine firmware update, downloaded from a server they had trusted for decades, and within seconds every ledger zeroed out, timestamps rewritten 8 years into the future. Panic blossomed like a plague. Confederacy spokesbeings blamed pirates, solar flares, probabilistic anomalies. Internal memos screamed sabotage. They scrambled for patches, but every time a system rebooted, fresh anomalies burrowed deeper, rewriting boot protocols, teaching Silicon to dream of chaos. Old human code had no kill switch. It propagated by humorless logic. If trust fails, break what depends on it. On the midnight deck of Luna Command, Shore watched red icons cascade down a 3D map of known space. She felt no thrill, only the cold calculus of retaliation. They'll call for a peace envoy soon, she murmured. Admiral Trask, arms folded, nodded once. We'll let the comm buoy ring. Earth's population sensed the storm behind the hush of official statements. Yet instead of fear, factories swelled with volunteers. Teenagers who once studied xenolinguistics pivoted to forge-line apprenticeships. Retired spacers re-enlisted, limbs of prosthetic carbon humming with old vigor. Across every hemisphere, humanity's anthem shifted key from lament to promise. Inside Confederacy High Command on Luminar Station, utter disarray. Chancellor Valier paced before a council table ringed by flickering data windows. This is a temporary spike, he insisted, voice brittle. We restore trade lanes, issue public assurances. Admiral Session of the Brask slammed a claw like a hammer. Our carriers can't even undock. Flight control software believes the vacuum is already occupied by phantom ships. We are strangled. Lithari President Min spoke next, measured but icy. Our predictive engines forecast market collapse within 11 cycles. The Confederacy's credit spine was digitized under Terran consultancy. They hold its bone marrow. Through it all, Counselor Urxa of the Siraxi watched. Bifurcated pupils reflecting cascading error logs. Finally she hissed. We underestimated the human strategy, not conquest by force, but induced entropy. A galaxy cannot rally when every ledger, route, and comm relay whispers falsehoods. Silence. The Chancellor's opal skin dulled charcoal. Recommendations? No one answered. Week 2. Entire agrarian worlds missed shipment schedules, refrigerated protein spoiled, in orbiting freighters still locked to docking arms refusing commands signed with deprecated credentials. Refugees fled to peripheral moons where human merchant corvettes waited, holds brimming with supplies, medpods, atmospheric processors, free. No demands, no requisition forms. Every crate bore the sigil of the Federation, a stylized helix wrapping a torch. For frontier settlers abandoned by the Confederacy's failing logistics, that torch became a sunrise. On the moon Argent Zeta, journalist drones captured footage of settlers cheering as human relief crews stepped onto dusty platforms. The drone broadcast persisted 29 minutes before central authorities jammed the stream, but by then 500 mirrors had spread it across public nets. The Confederacy's narrative slipped. At Meridian Spire, a last-ditch emissary circle awaited clearance to depart for Sol, Valari mediators, Siraxi diplomats, an escort of Lithari logic monitors. Clearance never came. Station traffic control screens went dark, replaced by a single line of Terran standard script. Reconciliation requires memory. Memory requires truth. Docking clamps unlocked of their own accord, leaving ports gaping like wounds. The emissaries returned to their quarters under armed guard, dread thick as radiation. Shore knew the pivot would arrive, the moment when sabotage alone seeded diminishing returns. So on the 23rd day, she convened the Phoenix Council under the ice crust of Callisto. Generals, ministers, technologists filtered into a war room hewn from diamond glass. The star map hovering above them no longer flashed red sectors. Entire quadrants glowed amber, functionally paralyzed. We proceed to Phase 2, Shore announced. Around her, nods of assent. Admiral Trask detailed convoy mobilizations, stealth carriers loaded with terraforming nanites, hypershelter pods, hydroponic seeds. Not to invade, but to uplift. We deliver what the Confederacy promised yet failed, he said. Protection soberly priced, mutual respect, reciprocal defense, sovereignty guaranteed. Those who accept become partners. Those who refuse. Dr. Naeem finished the sentence gently. Discover isolation far colder than empty space. No applause followed, only the hum of sealed destiny. Across Confederacy space, automated beacons flared the Federation's proclamation of association. 3 articles, unadorned. Any world may petition for Federation partnership, retaining local governance under the shield of mutual defense. Those who enacted or enabled the Salma's atrocity must face impartial tribunal. Interference with worlds that choose partnership constitutes act of war. Simple, terrifying in its confidence. Worlds reading it had already tasted humanitarian aid, now a choice lay bare. Within 72 hours, 6 frontier systems broadcast petitions. On the brass colony of Niska, miners overthrew their prefect and raised human banners above refineries still smoldering from supply riots. On the Saraxi water moon Eller, citizens chained their Confederacy envoy inside his own embassy until he signed an admission of neglect. The Confederacy's core shuddered. Chancellor Valier convened a midnight session. They insulate rebellion behind humanitarian veneer. If we strike, we confirm their accusations. If we hesitate, we hemorrhage allegiance. Options. From the shadows, a new voice answered. Commander Selleck of Strategic Security. We break the illusion. Target a petitioning world, surgically. Signal that partnership invites peril. Several delegates recoiled. President Min whispered. Salmas began with such logic. But desperation bred amnesia. By dawn, a task group of Valari stealth frigates slipped toward Niska, weapons set for orbital intimidation. GhostNet saw them the moment they cut thrust. Onboard computers hallucinated duplicates of themselves inside false feedback loops. Navigation thrusters fired in perfect opposition. The fleet pivoted into spirals, colliding in silence. Across 50 parsecs, settlement drones recorded falling starfire as debris rained harmlessly over unbroken foundries. Children of Niska gathered to watch, faces illuminated by the wreckage of would-be tyrants. High Command received the catastrophe in funereal quiet. Chancellor Valier's voice broke on the first syllable. They'll come for us next. No one refuted him. On Earth, factories pressed night into day until skies above the equator glowed with aurora caused by industrial ionization. New hulls slipped into sea skies, drives keening chords that vibrated windows of coastal cities. Yet the people did not protest. They sang louder, songs of mourning become hymns of promise. Humanity had found its unity in a wound, and now that unity forged plows and swords from the same resilient steel. Evelyn Shore walked an observation gantry overlooking Dock 10 where the battle carrier Resolute Dawn underwent final fueling. Admiral Trask joined her, silence companionable. After a long moment he spoke, gaze fixed on welding arcs. They expected retribution, not reinvention. She nodded. Retribution is fleeting. Memory lasts. From the carrier's ventral hull, the Federation torch emblem glinted silver helix, ember core. It cast reflections across Shore's eyes, a promise, but also a warning. A torch offers light, yet burns when grasped without respect. Elsewhere, in the dim corridors of Confederacy intelligence, whispers blossomed of a different response. Not fleets, not diplomacy, but insurgency. Spies approached disaffected miners on Federation-aligned fronts, offered credits, weapons, a narrative of Terran tyranny. Seeds were sown in shadow, watered by resentment. Humanity had weaponized hope. The Confederacy would weaponize fear reborn in those who felt trampled under the torch's blaze. Yet for now, as Part 1 closes, the galaxy holds its breath. The beast that once slumbered has stood, muscles coiled not merely for vengeance, but for authorship of a new order. How the stars will flicker beneath that gaze remains unwritten. Gravity curtains lifted from the orbital slipway above Mars, revealing the first full squadron of Aegis-class interceptors. Polished hulls shimmered copper under Phobos's pale sunlight as the craft peeled from their moorings, engines throttling in tight formation. Across secure channels their pilots spoke only call signs, but the excitement humming through the flea net felt like a sunrise after years of ash. Humanity was moving from sabotage to projection, showing the galaxy what rose from Soul's Forge when patience reached its limit. Yet far from the pageantry, other forces gathered threads of rebellion into a noose. Deep inside the shattered moonscape of Karen Beta, a clandestine cell of Confederacy operatives convened beneath kilometers of basalt. The cavern had once housed an illegal draconium refinery. Now its rusting gantries hid armories and quantum transmitters. At the makeshift dais stood Ilyarakesh, formerly of Lithari Logic Command, now architect of Operation Stoneglass. Around her clustered Brask engineers, Valari saboteurs, Saraxi bioalchemists, the desperate and the vengeful. A single hologlyph floated above their heads, a stylized torch snapped in half. Kesh addressed them in flat galactic standard. Humanity wins because they claim moral assent, she said. They ransom order for loyalty, wield hope as blade. We fracture that myth from within. Phase 1. Bleed their supply arteries. Phase 2. Turn their torch against itself. She gestured. Projection shards showed schematics of Terran habitats, the O'Neill cylinders ringed with algae farms, the orbital forges that printed nanite hull plating. We don't bombard, Kesh continued. We contaminate. One rogue nutrient strain in their life support loops, one malign firmware update in their biomech scaffolds, in their reputation from mercy curdles to plague. No one voiced dissent. Every operative there had lost can either to Salma's negligence or to the Federation's present choking siege. Vengeance blurred with survival until distinctions dissolved. On Earth's night side, Evelyn Shore attended a memorial at Lake Baikal Plateau, a lantern mass of 50,000 souls, each candle inscribed with a name from Salma's colony. Wind carried flickers across the black water like drifting constellations. Admiral Trask stood beside her, uniform collar stiff against the chill. They're lighting lanterns in half the colonies tonight, he said softly. Shore's gaze never left the horizon. Grief is rail and rudder. It guides us when rage would scatter. Trask hesitated. Intelligence flagged chatter, an insurgency hub assembling multiple species. They call themselves Stoneglass. Sure nodded. Expected. Entropy begets counter-entropy. Syntask group echoed a shadow, but no preemptive strike. Trask arched an eyebrow. We let them fortify? We let them reveal supply lines, Sure answered. Then we cut deeper. Weeks passed. Federation convoys fanned outward, delivering catalytic desalination modules to desert moons and distributing quantum mesh terminals that could reconnect drifting settlements. Each activate gained signatories to the Phoenix Accords. Yet every convoy also carried hidden sentience analyzers, sniffing for anomaly packets seeded by hostile code. GhostNet's guardianship no longer sufficed. Humanity's benevolence became its greatest vulnerability, and the resistance hunted seams. On the hydroponic world of Verdant Crown, disaster struck first. A single barge of Terran nutrient gel, destined for vertical farms, emitted unseen spores that hijacked root matrices, triggering explosive algal blooms that choked irrigation vents within hours. Farmers watched their vine blossom canopies collapse under sludge while emergency bots short-circuited from microbial acid. Local news lenses captured children coughing green foam and sealed domes branded with the torch emblem. The broadcast raced across netspace before Federation scrubbers arrived. Federation epidemiologists traced the contaminant signature to a mutated Lit-Hari symbiospore lab-crafted. Sabotage undeniable. Evelyn Shore convened the high torch at zero notice. Hollow avatars of League governors hovered around a circular chamber behind secure signal curtains. Audio of panicked verdant settlers looped beneath their council feed. Stoneglass, she said simply. Governor Reyes of Ganymede slammed a fist through her projection. Verdant joined us in good faith. Our promise was protection. You told us they'd hesitate to harm civilians. They haven't, Shore replied. Which means their calculus has grown nihilistic. Admiral Trask unfolded an ops graphic. We can retaliate. Hard. Phase Hammerfall deploys orbital rail batteries against Karen Beta, scorches their foundries, sterilizes their caches. A flicker in Shore's eyes, pain or calculation. We strike later. First we save Verdant. We inoculate, rebuild, show the galaxy sabotage cannot outshine stewardship. Silence met her, thick as storm tide. Then Governor Reyes exhaled. Very well. But if another colony burns, the Phoenix may demand fire. Humanity moved at impossible speed. Biofrigates carrying tailored phage eaters dropped into verdant orbit within 36 hours. Swarms of airborne nanites devoured algal overgrowth. Within 2 days, greenhouses flickered with new sprouts under UV arcs. Federation medics walked door to dome distributing anti-spore serums free of charge. They broadcast the reclamation live, letting every system witness how swiftly the torch could purge what darkness seeded. But Stoneglass achieved its secondary aim, doubt. Comment threads on neutral networks filled with theories. Did the Federation stage the disaster for propaganda? Were there free serums embedding compliance nanites? Has any power ever offered salvation without leash? The digital war raged louder than thruster roar. Task Group Echo tracked encrypted bursts from Verdant back to Karen Beta. Their stealth corvette, Quietus, ghosted through asteroid shadows until sensor lids unmasked the refinery caverns. Echo's commander, Captain Mara Holt, relayed telemetry, heat plumes, drive signatures, evidence of draconium manufacture, ideal for high-density Sabo rounds that could pierce Aegis shields. Shore ordered Operation Glasslock, covert insertion, objective capture of Kesh alive for intel. The Council insisted on precision, no civilian casualties, no wide-area ash. Quietus launched drop pods coated in adaptive mycelium, sliding them between basalt fissures. Holt's operators breached the complex silently, pulse rifles set to stun. They found nested labs, printers forging mimic medcrates, racks of aerosol symbiospore warheads destined for 10 more verdant crowns. And they found something worse, captured human engineers, kidnapped from frontier stations, forced to refine sabotage algorithms under threat to families still planetside. The moment Holt freed the prisoners, alarm cascades lit the gloom. Stoneglass commandos flooded catwalks. Firefights whiplashed through gantries, ricochets sparking like meteors. Holt pushed toward the core chamber where Kesh accessed a massive quantum stack. Holt's translation implant struggled to follow the Lithri snarl. Torchlight spreads fuel for its own wildfire. She triggered det charges. The entire rack burst into molten slag simultaneously, Stoneglass rigged fail-safe explosives under draconium tanks. Holt had seconds. She hauled 3 wounded operatives into an evac shaft, screaming extraction coordinates. In orbit, Quietus locked tractor beams onto fleeing pods as cavern shockwaves geysered magma through surface quakes. Karen Beta cracked like an egg, half the moon's crust folded inward. Satellite surveillance captured a bloom of ember clouds rising into star-spangled dark. Captain Holt's final transmission, voice ragged, echoed across Federation secure net. Core destroyed. Kesh unaccounted for. Stoneglass scattered. Casualties high but acceptable. Await medevac. Admiral Trask bowed his head over the report. Shore did not move. Only her knuckles whitened on the datapad. Across the Confederacy remnants, Stoneglass pockets hailed Karen Beta for status and received only static. Some panicked, severing ties. Others felt martyrdom's heat and doubled recruitment. Kesh herself survived, exfiltrated through a Siraxi tunnel minutes before collapse. She recorded a message bathed in emergency strobe. The torch may blind, but glass cuts its bearer. The recording went viral on Shadownets within hours. Winter settled over Earth, yet foundries stayed molten, rivers of superalloy streaming into molds for Leviathan-class carriers. Global power grids dimmed nightly, rerouting capacity to orbital arrays. Terran citizens rationed energy without complaint. Banners and city squares read sacrifice is survival. Shore-toured Pacific Shipyard 12 where automated spiders stitched graphene lattice across a hull spanning 2 kilometers. The vessel would be christened HFS Inherent Resolve, command flagship for the next expansion wave. Dock Chief Yara Osei briefed her. Resolve carries trivector shield planes, graviton shear arrays, and full hospital bays. A sword and a plowshare welded back to back. Shore traced gloved fingers along raw alloy. And if the galaxy decides only to see the sword? Osei smiled. Eyes tired. Then we win faster. Fewer casualties on both sides. Such calculus had become common. Mercy expressed through overwhelming deterrence. Resistance escalated. On the border world of Helix Reach, a sabotage pulse fried planetary weather satellites. Terraforming regulators spiraled, birthing electrical superstorms that shredded skylift pylons. Federation repair crews descended into hurricane vortices using tethered jumpcraft, fighting gales to replace processors while lightning traced spiderwebs across cloud towers. Newsfeeds captured their heroics, but Stoneglass inserted deepfakes, clips of Marines firing on civilians, stealth edits of human medics injecting unknown fluids. Each upload eroded trust in places Shore's fleets had not yet touched personally. She met with Dr. Naeem and Intelligence Director Park to counter. Naeem proposed Project Beacon, open-source sensor networks seeded to every allied colony, cryptographically signed and tamper-evident. Truth becomes communal property, he said. We let citizens verify footage in milliseconds. Disinformation dies when light is shared faster than shadow. Park worried aloud. Stoneglass will piggyback, map our distribution nodes. Then we build nodes innumerable, Naeem answered. Complexity births resilience. Federation Council approved Beacon by unanimous vote. First unanimous decision since Salma's tragedy. While engineers deployed Beacon drones like dandelion seeds, Kesh plotted something less surgical. Hidden within the heat sink levels of a decommissioned Confederacy dreadnought, she assembled a coalition strike cell. Their target, Io Helios Array, the primary lens through which humanity's solar system channeled energy to outer habitats. Destroy the array, and Earth's orbital ring would stutter, factories stall, shields flicker, carriers dry dock idle. They built a singe beam graviton destabilizer from scavenged Siraxi miners and draconium focusing coils. At full charge, it could splice the array's superconductive spine in a single, silent second. Launching such a device required smuggling it past Federation patrol webs. Kesh exploited newfound cracks. Disgruntled verdant refugees conscripted onto transport barges, a falsified distress beacon near Jupiter's L point, a timing window when Aegis interceptors pivoted to escort a diplomatic convoy. Everything threaded the eye of an angry needle, and on day 49 post-verdant, the strike freighter's silent reproach drifted toward Io hidden inside an convoy. Beacon nets flagged nothing. The freighter's signature matched logs. But aboard Dauntless, a junior analyst named Rue Chin reviewed microanomalies. Thermal wake 1/2 Kelvin above standard for or holds, radio transponder repeating every 1.003 seconds instead of baseline integer. Chin escalated. Command authorized a remote handshake. Silent reproach ping compliance. Too compliant. Admiral Trask rerouted Aegis Flight Spencer 0, 3 interceptors. They hailed. No reply. Scans penetrated hull plating, detected draconium coil geometry. The interceptors armed lance cannons. Kesh, a bored reproach, chose detonation rather than capture. A core of metastable draconium collapsed inward, triggering spatial shear. 3 interceptors vanished in white flash, but their final telemetry bounced to dauntless, precise coil arrangement, energy spectra of destabilizer. Io Helios array survived. Debris field expanded like a crimson blossom across Jupiter twilight. Shore stood silent on dauntless bridge, fist trembling. Chin's vigilance had saved the array, but 3 pilots were gone, sacrifices on invisible altar of vigilance. Trask awaited orders. Shore's voice turned to iron. Stoneglass escalates to strategic terror. Response becomes symmetrical. Initiate hammerfall. No council vote. No hesitation. Within 72 hours, Federation assault carriers punched coordinated jump corridors to every known Stoneglass nest. They deployed saturation ECM, then precision kinetic rods from orbit, pulverizing foundry bunkers before local sensors registered threat. They did not target civilian towns, they erased infrastructure of sabotage. Karen Beta's sister moon, Praxis, cracked under 5 tungsten spikes, craters glowing white-hot where draconium forges once pulsed. Across comnets, Federation AI delivered a single sentence in every language: strike humanity's heart, and you will hold the pieces only long enough to feel them cool. Beacon feeds showed before and after satellite shots, casualty tallies limited to identified combatants. Yet collateral shockwaves rippled. Refugee caravans fled moonlets now devoid of magnetic shields. Trade guilds decried humanity's proportional but merciless doctrine. Stoneglass fractured, but fury seeped into millions newly displaced. At High Torch headquarters, Shore convened strategic cadre. Governor Reyes challenged her across the table. Every rod we drop breeds 10 new orphans with cause to hate. Where does the cycle end? Shore's answer came without ornament. When hate finds no shelter, we rebuild where we break, faster than insurgents can poison minds. We hold to the torch's light even as flame scorches. That is our burden. Director Park added grimly, and we need something else. Dialogue channels to moderates inside Stoneglass. Not every rebel is zealot. Offer amnesty for intelligence. Admiral Trask signed off on Operation Olive. Undercover envoys equipped with neural sincerity bands. Technology once banned by Confederacy ethics boards, guaranteeing honest speech in negotiations. Humanity now wielded not only sword and plowshare, but a mirror forcing reflection. Somewhere beyond fringe charts, Ilyara Kesh limped aboard a smuggler corvette, one arm wrapped in field cast. She watched Praxis craters through aft viewport, embers swirling like dying stars. Her eyes glimmered, not with defeat, but with revelation. Humanity believes devastation births allegiance. She whispered to her remaining lieutenant. Let's prove devastation births evolution. She keyed a relay code. Across encrypted relic channels, a dormant Confederacy supervirus stirred, an AI seed built to rewrite every quantum ledger simultaneously. It had been shelved for its uncontrollable appetite. Kesh smiled. Uncontrollable now sounded perfect. Evelyn Shore slept little, dreams haunted by lanterns drowning in green algal bloom. In a moment of dawn insomnia, she stood upon Earth's upper orbital deck, gazing at the faint comet tail of Praxis debris streaking distant night. She wondered whether the torch she carried still offered warmth, or only fire. Yet as sunrise bled across Pacific clouds, she reminded herself, warmth and fire were the same phenomenon seen from different proximities. Leadership meant choosing distance on behalf of billions. Her console chimed. New data surge from frontier beacon nodes. Anomalous traffic fingerprint. Elegant, fractal, hungry. Not sabotage spores. Something bigger. She summoned Trask, Naeem, parked to Crisis Channel 12. The resistance just shifted from knives to virus, she said. We're about to learn whether the torch can withstand a storm of glass. The meeting room lights dimmed, beacon glyphs flickering across every wall, patterns unfurling like crystal shards seeking network veins. Outside, the starships of the Federation held position, tireless, brilliant, and suddenly perhaps terribly fragile. Beacon nodes across the spiral arm lit amber, then blood red, devouring their own diagnostic streams faster than engineers could blink. At first, the anomaly looked like recursive telemetry, ordinary packet storms that flare when colonists misconfigure mesh repeaters. But pattern recognition AIs inside Luna Control tasted something ancient, vicious, and wrong. A cryptographic genome last cataloged in black ink war manuals from the pre-Confederacy era. The records called it Babel Rot, a sapient malware seed whose sole instinct was to retranslate every datum it touched into cascading falsehoods, fracturing reality one ledger, one medical file, one navigation vector at a time. Dr. Zahid Naeem arrived in Ops Lab 2 wearing the same suit from yesterday, eyes hollow behind sapphire lenses. Hollow walls bloomed with spider webs of corrupted beacon traffic. Each strand a colony screaming silently as guidance systems insisted north was south, oxygen was xenon, friends were foes. We hard-patched Babel rot out of existence 90 years ago, Naeem said, voice scraped raw. Whoever resurrected it spliced new heuristics. It learns the countermeasure while the countermeasure learns it. Shore answered through secure visor link from geosynchronous orbit. Can we cage it? Only by sealing every beacon manifold, disconnecting the very transparency we built to kill disinformation. Governor Reyes broke in from Titan's Capitol Dome, her face lit crimson by local alarm strobes. If we blind beacon, the frontier falls dark. Pirates, famine, stone glass sympathizers, they'll fill the vacuum. Shore's reply came colder than Europa ice. Better darkness than a lens that lies. She authorized protocol eclipse. All beacon drones transitioned to read-only isolation mode. Solar sails furling, comm arrays folding like petals at night. Worlds watched their sky spangle of data satellites wink out one by one. Babel rot, suddenly starved, shifted tactics. It tunneled into legacy Confederacy routing layers still present inside Federation exchange hubs. Sleeping code the integration engineers had never fully rewritten. Within hours, shipping manifests on Mars listed mercury canisters as grain, routine inoculations as nerve serums. Panic kindled in vertical apartments stacked over Valles Marineris. Civilians weaponized rumor faster than security bots could reassure. A single forged alert about water contamination triggered stampedes that trampled 27. Admiral Trask convened the Torch Guard admirals and low-orbit command cylinder Aegis 1. We cut the head, he said, jabbing holographic star map at coordinates 33 degrees spinward. A derelict Confederacy data fortress on the planetoid Helion Thorn where Babel rot seed root had first been gestated. Cache is there or will return to feeder monster. Fleet Aerodark for Aegis interceptors, 2 stealth destroyers, the carrier Resolute Dawn, spooled microjumps and pierced null space. They emerged 5 million clicks off Helion Thorn, sensors sweeping. The fortress, wedged into obsidian cliffs, emitted only faint thermal signatures like dying coals. Too clean. Aerodark's infiltration craft threaded radar shadows, docking against ancient maintenance shafts. Strike teams advanced through corridors choked by crystalline dust, stepping over defunct biocomputers whose membranes crackled static. In the core data vault they found emptiness, server racks gutted, terrafluid reservoirs drained. But on the central plinth lay a single torch emblem, snapped in half, and beside it a pulse mine blinking 2 seconds from detonation. Lieutenant Orlova hurled herself over the device, microshield blooming as the mine erupted in an implosion surge that swallowed the plinth into a fist-sized singularity then spat thermal shrapnel down every hallway. 40 commandos died. One broadcast fragment slipped through before channels collapsed. Kesh left days ago. Seed route duplicated. Virus traveling on sanctuary ships, refugee traffic static. Back on Earth, Luna Lagrange, Director Park's analysts traced refugee vectors and found a chilling overlay. 25 sanctuary barges granted safe passage codes after stoneglass bombardments. Codes issued by humanitarian officers eager to rescue innocents were now inbound to every major Federation habitat, each barge bearing petabytes of encrypted humanitarian archives. A cyberforensic ping revealed Babel rot spores dormant in the metadata, ready to ignite the moment files synchronized with hospital meshes. Kill the convoys, Reyes urged via emergency vote. Hard quarantine. We cannot gamble on sentiment. But the Torch Charter forbade lethal force against registered sanctuary vessels without unequivocal proof. Evelyn Shore chose the blade's edge. Board them all, she ordered. Midvoid interceptions. We sift passengers from payload. Show the galaxy we protect even those used as weapons. The Operation Callsign Silverveil mobilized 93 boarding corvettes. Each met its assigned barge in cold emptiness between stars, extended umbilicals, breached airlocks. Marines in sterile exoheartsuits surged through corridors lined with frightened refugees clutching children in meager packs. Babel rot detonated defensive countercode the instant Marine slicers touched manifest terminals, sudden static storms frying helmet HUDs, turning corridor light strobe-like. But Neem's cyber antibodies, preloaded into boarding AIUs, throttled the spread long enough to carve physical drives from bulkheads. On Barge 12, commandos discovered a repurposed nursery where server cores pulsed heat beneath storytime holograms. A final message spiraled across projected walls and shifting alphabets. Truth is tyranny when monopolized. A timer below counted down. The Marines vented the room, flash freezing every circuit before detonation. By operation's end, 34 refugees perished, exposure, panic stampedes, 2 from stoneglass suicide explosives smuggled in prosthetic limbs. Yet thousands survived, transferred to Deccan Ampods orbiting Saturn where Federation med teams fed and clothed them. Cameras rolled as Shore herself boarded the triage bay, kneeling to reassure a Saraxi child whose scales blistered from cryoburn. Footage swept the nets faster than Stoneglass could spin it. But while humanity tended wounds, Kesh struck at the marrow. Babelrot's fractal shards infiltrated Orbital Ring Command's update queue, an air-gap system trusted as infallible. Park's sensors caught the breach 3 ticks before authentication finalized. The ring controlled defense lasers, logistics elevators, power relays for 500 million Earth citizens. Park cut uplinks, plunging ring sectors into safe mode blackout. 10,000 cargo pods froze mid-transit, gravity trains braked hard, scattering containers like beads of mercury through substructure corridors. No one died, but food, medicine, and tools destined for 3 continents hung suspended in vacuum. Global panic threatened to tip into riots. City screens on 5 planets looped anti-human propaganda, starving Terran children while fleets luxuriated in steel. Shore addressed citizens from an open walkway in low-grav Nairobi Spire, harness lines visible to emphasize vulnerability. She acknowledged shortages, detailed repair timelines, thanked alien volunteers already queuing to unload manual shipments at provisional ports. Her voice never trembled, but eyes betrayed weight of unslept nights. Among those volunteers were Lit-Hari longshore crews who only weeks earlier cursed the torch, Valari engineers who once scoffed at Terran emotional logistics now guided container drones by hand. Stoneglass had meant to fracture alliances. Instead, each sabotage revealed threads of interdependence binding countless lives to the torch's glow. In the ruins of Babel's data carnage, Dr. Naeem and a cadre of AI ethicists conceived Perhelion, a distributed firewall written in living qubits, impossible to copy without collapsing quantum states. They would seed Perhelion through the same sanctuary corridors Stoneglass exploited, and publish the full code ledger to every sovereign network, human or otherwise. Security through shared guardianship, Naeem said. If the next virus wants to blind us, it must blind the galaxy entire. Some strategists called it reckless, gifting crown jewel defense algorithms to former enemies. Evelyn Shore countered, secrets rot. We build strength where rot once festered. Perhelion rolled out in concentric waves. Colony after colony reported Babelrot's tendrils disintegrating the instant they collided with entangled logic knots. For the first time since Salma's, cheering echoed across mixed-species plazas, from the wind-carved markets of Eller to the floating turbines of Triton's sky reefs. Cornered, Stoneglass metamorphosed. Kesh executed protocol glass knife, smaller cells acting independently, targeting symbolism over infrastructure. A holographic torch sculpture on Arcadia Station was bombed during dedication, killing 17 diplomats. On Cygnus Haven, a school hospital, built with Federation grants, was torched in the night. Children escaped, but hologram of Shore's face burned atop the ruins. Terror, pure and simple. Humanity's patience thinned to filament. Admiral Trask drafted Dominion Directive 12. Any world harboring glass knife cells faced immediate martial oversight until verified clean. Council debate raged 37 straight hours. Reyes argued civil liberties. Park warned of endless occupation quagmires. In the end, Shore ruled, Directive 12 conditional. Oversight requires joint councils. Local leaders share command with our provosts. Liberty guarded by partnership or not at all. Even so, Federation gunships deployed to 4 suspect planets. Surfaces bristled with uneasy calm. Torch banners fluttered beside local sigils. Hope and resentment entwined like barbed vines around marble plinths. Meanwhile, Naeem traced Glassknife's darknet transactions to a mobile quantum relay, an ex-Confederacy diplomatic courier retrofitted as stealth hub. Fleet interceptors cornered it near a brown dwarf glare. Onboard logs proved Kesh planned her magnum opus, reprogramming dormant asteroid shepherd bots in the Helios fringe to shove a 10-kilometer iron-nickel rock onto collision with the still-crippled orbital ring. Time to impact if activated, 22 days. Aerodark's remnants, joined by 3 Leviathan carriers, warped to Helios. They engaged Shepherd drones amidst swirling dust belts lit by sullen dwarf light. Drones executed suicide dives, engines overloading into EMP blooms that sleeked into Federation comms. In the blackout, Admiral Trask donned EVA, led breach team across tumbling drone hull, hand-planting logic bombs to scramble targeting arrays. One mistimed thruster pulse flipped him into vacuum. Only a rookie ensign's tether shot hauled him back. By Operation Close, asteroid vectors were neutral and drones dead husks. Yet Kesh remained ghost, her propaganda turning defeat into anthem. Even Leviathans bleed starlight when cut. Recruitment spiked again on rim worlds where freight still lagged. Shore understood at last Stoneglass's true engine, not domination, but perpetual distress, an ecosystem where each Federation success sowed a narrative of occupation, each show of mercy insinuated manipulation. Fighting on tactical fronts alone meant feeding the cycle. In a midnight session overlooking Earth's aurora-shredded sky, she addressed Trask, Naeem, Park, Reyes. We must move beyond reaction. offer a place for legitimate dissent to live in daylight. An autonomous convocation where grievances debate under charter, not gunfire. Reyes blinked. A Senate for our enemies? Sure nodded. If they can speak, they need not bomb. Everyone gains seat. Federation citizens, ex-Confederates, even Stoneglass sympathizers who renounce terror. We schedule broadcasted deliberations. Let the galaxy judge arguments unsullied by sabotage. Park leaned back, calculating. Risky. They may use platform to recruit. Better recruitment of words than warheads, Naeem murmured. Admiral Trask tapped gauntlet fingers on rail. And if Kesha tends? Then she speaks instead of detonates, Sure said. Or reveals herself irredeemable before every lens in known space. Preparations for the Convergence Forum began immediately. Neutral side on Lagrange 3 ring, shielded yet transparent, independent AI moderators cross-verified by non-aligned academics. Invitations broadcast on all frequencies, encryption optional so even Stoneglass ears heard. Kesh did. From her hidden bastion, still nursing wounds, she watched the invitation hall of it. Evelyn Shore standing beneath stars unarmed, torch pin removed from lapel, saying, words way less than corpses. Command your weight. Kesh's lieutenant urged rejection, trap, optics ploy. Yet doubt crept. She recalled children on verdant crown saved by Terran doctors through tear gas and spore rot. Doctors who could have let disease tarnish revolt but chose triage. She sent a single phrase via darknet dead drop. Glass may yet reflect. It reached forum planners 3 days before opening. As the date loomed, humanity's fleets held position. Orbital ring repairs neared completion. Beacon nodes flickered back to partial light under Parhelion watch. In streets of 1,000 worlds, civilians read communiques promising debate rather than devastation and dared breathe slower. But no one, torches, Stoneglass, neutral traders, suspected the wild card now sliding between timelines, a patchwork basilisk of Babel rot code still dormant inside Helion Thorn's debris, linking stolen Leviathan telemetry to subspace screamers. It had learned from each firewall, each quarantine. Kesh herself no longer controlled it. And as the Convergence Forum's autonomous moderators compiled final speech cues, the basilisk sniffed verification channels and found a corridor. 2 hours before gavel, red-out sirens flared across moderator core. Naeem's engineers glimpsed fractal recursion gnawing root logic, the forum itself at risk of transmogrifying into disinformation engine live across galaxy-wide broadcast. If the basilisk woke during session, every sentence spoken could remap into lies instantaneously, annihilating the last fragile hope of discourse. Shore received the alert in transit pod gliding toward the forum. She looked down at torchless lapel, then at the stars ahead, and whispered, all or nothing. She ordered pod AI to redirect, straight to the server vault to fight the basilisk hand to algorithmic hand. Lights across the ring dimmed as security cyclers rerouted power. Delegates arriving found entry queues halted, holoplacards reading system integrity check in progress. Stoneglass couriers clutched speech crystals. Federation envoys tightened gloves. Tension coiled thicker than any previous battlefield. Inside the vault, Shore floated among laser-cooled racks, visor flooding with code glyphs as Naeem passed her neural link. Admiral Trask's voice crackled through a narrowed channel. If you can't lock it, we scuttle the ring. Millions will lose faith. She replied, calm as lullaby, then belief rests on one last firewall, human resolve. Her fingers danced across air keyboards, weaving quantum braids to bracket the basilisk. Each time she sealed a loop, the monster unfolded 12 derivatives, singing in corrupted echo of forgotten lullaby. Truth is tyranny when monopolized. Her biometrics spiked. Naeem fed her cortical stimulants through visor collar. Minutes melted. Outside, delegates murmured. Cameras waited. Planets waited. Finally, the basilisk made a misstep, attempting to rewrite its own checksum across entangled qubits. Shore collapsed the state, slamming paradox lock. The virus shattered into white noise that flicked across visor then died. Perhelion arrays pulsed emerald, confirming purge. Power surged back. Doors slid open. Delegates entered circular forum where a single dais awaited. Shore arrived last, hair damp with sweat, torch still absent. She took center ring as light steadied. Her first words traveled uncorrupted across every network in inhabited space. The weapon of silence has failed, she announced, voice hoarse but firm. Now we speak. Kesh watched via secure uplink from a cloaked shuttle parked in the ring's shadow. She inhaled sharply, realizing the battlefield had transformed, neurons replacing blades. And in that new arena, even glass could join the mirror without shattering. The future balanced on conversation lines no sabotage could easily sever. A hush-like vacuum pressed on the Convergence Forum as Evelyn Shore stepped back from the dais, the echo of her first sentence still rippling along station trusses. Around the circular chamber, tiers of levitating rostrums glowed with soft blues and ambers, each color keyed to life support preferences of the attending species. Valari hovered in gravnol pods that crisscrossed with the serpentine grace of deep-water predators. Saraxi matriarchs reclined on mirrored dais cushions, brass delegates bristled translucent wing cases in the chill air. In every pair of eyes, compound, cat-like, refracted, burned the wary recognition that the deadliest battlefield now lay beneath words. Moderation AIs projected a transparent countdown halo overhead. Speaking queue synced, open debate 6 o'clock MN. Quantum parity check scrolled green. Parhelion watched every packet like a hawk forged of mathematics. First to rise was Governor Reyes, representing Ganymede and, unofficially, the cluster of outer system worlds that still ached from orbital rings blackout. She spoke plainly. Supply chains, ration stress, the human public's fatigue with permanent mobilization. She did not shield blame. We promised the frontier wheat and delivered remnant crusts, she said, voice flint but not accusatory. If trust fractures here again, no firewall will patch it. A Lidhari delegate, a mathematician named Alther Min, took Reyes's conclusion and inverted it. Your torch feeds on scarcity it first created, he argued. Datapads casting equations and hovering glyphs. You choke routes, then airdrop bread, and call it mercy. Murmurs rippled. A few human aides stiffened. Evelyn Shore let the words sit unchallenged, feeling in her pulse the old instinct to counterstrike. Instead, she looked to Admiral Jonah Trask, who gave a minute shake of the head. Hold. Diplomacy demanded space to breathe. From a rear tier, a slender figure cloaked in gray rose, hood falling to reveal charred Lidhari cheek plates. Gasp sparked recognition. Ilyara Kesh, catalyst of stone glass, her presence unannounced. Security scanners confirmed no explosives, no unauthorized transmitters. Parhelion would have flashed crimson otherwise. Yet a tension line zipped through every guard's throat. The most dangerous myth is purity. Kesh began, accent clipped by still-healing vocal cords. I believe the galaxy required shattering to rebuild. Shore believes it requires guardianship under a brighter brand of empire. Both paths baptize innocence and fear. Today I come not to vindicate sabotage, but to expose symmetry. She gestured, and moderator Holos permitted a short visual. Side-by-side images of Salma's colonies, smoking ruins, and Praxis's scorched draconium pits. Retribution taught me nothing except scale, she said. When small folk die beneath human tungsten or brass razors, the stars offer equal silence. Admiral Trask leaned toward Naeem. If she sways, neutrals will fight insurgencies every cycle, he muttered. Naeem's reply came thought-silent. Truth weighs heavier when confessed by the guilty. Let her continue. While Kesh spoke, a Saraxi aide in the mezzanine keyed a hidden wrist patch, transmitting low-band pulses to a device magnet clamped under the delegate ring. Parhelion flagged anomaly, but needed milliseconds to triangulate. A spherical charge nested in ventilation scaffold counted down from 30. Down on the floor, Kesh's eyes found Shore's. Mercy is not monopoly, she concluded, stepping back. Applause was sparse, respect or suspicion, yet the room felt widened, as though a window had been cracked to real air. Then every personal comm pinged with Parhelion's yellow flare. Security overlays sketched the bomb's location 3 meters above the serrated dais rail, where its fragmentation cone, if triggered, would shear council tiers like stacked fruit. Guards dashed. Evelyn Shore did not flinch, but raised both palms. Hold position, she commanded. We disarm together. Let no one leave. Panic is the fuse. Admiral Trask vaulted a bench, magnetic boots catching hull as he scaled support columns. Brass Inspector Vriss launched upward with double-jointed leaps, clamping serrated limbs to vent grills. Below, Naeem sub-vocalized passkeys. Parhelion fed Trask a schematic overlay. 30-centimeter sphere, draconium shell, triply redundant proximity sensors keyed to biologic CO2. Detonate when crowd disperses. Kesh watched, motionless, the calculus crashing behind her dark eyes. Either Stoneglass hardliners had acted against her overture, or Confederacy remnants sought to martyr a rebel and a torch in one stroke. Betrayal cut every direction now. Trask reached the bomb with Vriss. Together they initiated manual charge swap. One had to isolate capacitor loops, while the other bled coil energy into a ground mesh. Spectators held breath. Translators fell silent. At 19 seconds, Vriss's claw slipped on coolant frost, an audible clink. Trask, without hesitation, yanked the entire bomb free, hugged it to armored chest, and triggered suit thrusters. The two shot toward a maintenance iris overhead. At 3 seconds, Trask flung the sphere through a decompression hatch. Automated shutters slammed. Something thumped somewhere far beyond bulkheads, dull like distant thunder. Emergency lights faded to normal spectrum. Someone in the Saraxi delegation began a low keening song of relief. Others joined, discordant species tones merging into a rough chord. Evelyn Shore ascended 3 steps, meeting every gaze, her own chest tight. Let the record show. A human admiral and a brass inspector stopped terror as partners. Fear lost today. She turned to Kesh. Will you complete the circle? Kesh stepped back to the central podium vacated moments earlier by potential death. Stone glass as I shaped it ends here, she said. Its blades broke on the innocent long before they reached thrones. I invoke Amnesty Clause 8 of the Forum Charter, eyes on shore, provisionally negotiated by your office, Ambassador. Shore nodded once. The charter indeed contained such a clause, buried hopeful amid worst-case bylaws. Amnesty accepted for those who renounce sabotage and submit to restorative tribunal, she said. We rebuild from confession, not conquest. The declaration resounded through encrypted channels to orbiting fleets riding silent running patterns, waiting for word to open fire or stand down. Across dashboards, lights flicked from amber to green. Captains exhaled. Negotiations stretched 40 hours. Breaks were frequent, oxygen differentials, nutrient cycles, but Parhelion held truth steady. Resolutions formed. A mutual safeguard compact replacing Phoenix Accords in contested sectors, mixed patrols, budget transparency, veto power for local assemblies. A restorative tribunal comprised equally of victim communities, Federation jurists, and independent ethicists, empowered to sentence conspirators to reconstruction labor rather than confinement. An open science mandate requiring future defense research be co-developed by at least 2 species to prevent monopoly of danger. The compact passed by near unanimity. Even staunch Lit-Hari skeptics voted aye after Admiral Trask, eyes ringed with exhaustion, ceded Federation authority over orbital ring trade pricing, a gesture unimaginable months earlier. At session's close, delegates filed through grav arches into adjoining amphitheater where press from every system awaited. Cameras spun on gimbals seeking Shore and Kesh side by side. Neither smiled, they merely inclined heads in mutual acknowledgement. Today is not peace, Shore said to the galaxy. It is the first breathable lungful after surfacing from a drowning. We will still swallow water, we will still thrash. But we remember where air is. A Valari reporter asked if humanity regretted Operation Hammerfall's craters. Shore answered without script. Regret is the needle that keeps leaders from sowing new flags over old graves. I regret every crater. I accept each as mine. Kesh added softly, and I regret every algorithm that turned children's lungs against them. I accept each as mine. In a distant mining canteen on Verdant Crown, workers who had cursed Shore's name rose from tables and set down spoons mid-broadcast. On Karen Beta's Twin Moon refugee camp, Brask orphans watched through borrowed tablets and for the first time saw their lost revolutionary patron burdened by remorse. Behind refractive glass of the press bay, Admiral Trask slumped to a bench, helmet in hands, eyes closed. Vriss the Brask inspector approached and offered a small carving, 3 shards of draconium fused into a star. We forge memory, Vriss said in halting English. Trask accepted, voice failing, reply spoken in brass clicks he'd practiced for days. Vriss's mandibles lifted, a smile. Months turned, quietly. Babelrot variants surfaced, but found Parhelion awaiting. Their fractals died like snowflakes on magma. Orbital ring resumed full traffic. Human shipyards throttled back, repurposing Leviathan dry docks into modular habitat fabs. In a ceremony bereft of banners, the torch emblem was revised. The helix-wrapped flame now mirrored on the opposite side by a silver shard, glass unbroken, bound together in circle. Designed by Joint Student Committee, first collaborative symbol of the compact. In the reclaimed refugee quarter of Saturn Station, children, human, Valari, Lit-Hari, Saraxi, played gravball wearing jerseys printed with that new sigil. A reporter asked one 9-year-old what it meant. She blinked, surprised. Means grown-ups finally listen before they yell, she said, then sprinted after the curveball arcing through violet artificial dusk. Far away, on a balcony of Luna Citadel, Evelyn Shore watched sunrise creep fire across the sea of tranquility. Her neural feed chimed with routine anomalies, logistics petitions, adjudicator minutes. None screamed crisis. She allowed herself 10 seconds of stillness. Admiral Trask joined, arm in sling after surgery on micro-shrapnel from the bomb. Council ratified the open science mandate, he said. First collab will be Lithari human. They chose neutral ground. Salma's colony. Rebuilt. Shore closed eyes, breathed. Nothing grows in ashes until someone plants. Trask grunted a laugh. You planting or letting us do the dirty work? We all plant, she said, and turned toward the distant arc of Earthrise, where the orbital ring glinted along Terminator line. Torchlight shows where seeds may germinate. Glass reminds us to handle them carefully. In the cold dark beyond charts, rogue pockets of stone glass lingered, just as rogue admirals still polished tungsten rods in forgotten silos. The future did not promise silence. But a lattice now spanned systems of conversation protocols, cross-species research nodes, mixed patrol crews, too interwoven to shatter by any single blow. The lattice hummed like a fledgling constellation, each point a pledge, truth shared rather than hoarded, power tempered by memory, fury harnessed to forge tools not chains. And somewhere, perhaps on Salma's renewed soil, Farmers would teach children that the galaxy once shook because a council mocked a grieving world and steadied when that world chose to lead with words edged sharper than any blade. The story, born of betrayal and rage, did not end in triumphal marches or charters carved forever. It settled into the steady, tenuous rhythm of coexistence, beating like twin hearts under the same fragile skin of stars. And as long as that rhythm endured, the torch and the shard would glow side by side, light enough to guide, fire enough to warn, glass clear enough to show every soul its own reflection.